So during law school, I went to William Mitchell Hamlin now, but I worked during law school like many folks do who attend that institution. And that experience led me to, I think, see that there were many different options for people who have a legal background.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most important thing for me was that law school taught me how to think and do research, and so those skills really led me to be open to sort of some other career options.
Wow. So I really liked what you said about you paid attention. You paid attention to the cues, to the signs, because often people will dismiss those.
Right.
Or second guess those.
I think that's right. So that would be, I think, a piece of advice that I would offer from my own experience is really paying attention to the signs and what's happening around you. Just because change is occurring, that's not, sometimes it's a problem, but it also presents opportunities. And so I really kept my network. And when I say network, I mean, I had a sort of a social and professional network that were somewhat intertwined. And this was really on the very beginning of the internet. There was social media wasn't even around yet. It's really important not to just be transactional when you think about your network. It's important to be strategic and authentic and really keep those connections alive and available to you.
You know, I think that's a really important point, because now so many people like you maybe are from Minnesota, they leave, they try to come back, and if they don't maintain those networks, it's really a tougher road.
That's right. So it's two things, I think. It's keeping those relationships sort of alive and well. And the other is thinking about how does the experience that you've had outside of the state, no matter where you've been, how is that relevant, you know, and valuable coming back? And I think I was able to say, look, you know, my experience in Washington, I know how to work with the governor's offices. I know how to work on the Hill. I understand the federal government. I mean, those were things that were transferable skills that I could bring back to an agency role. So, of course, title, you know, matters to some extent as you're trying to build your career. But developing those skills and understanding what you're good at and what you like and finding that intersection of those things is really important.
You know, you started out, went to Washington, didn't have a family, and then your family grew along the way.
It did.
So talk about how when family becomes part of your life decisions, how did that factor into your career choices?
So that's a great question. And I think nowadays it's so much more common to have two parents who work. I think it's hard when children are young or in middle school to have both parents work full time in very demanding jobs. So what my husband and I did is we traded off a little bit. I had a very demanding job in the beginning when the kids were little, and he stepped back a little bit so he had more flexibility. And then when he had to lean in a bit more, I was able to step back. So we traded off a little bit in that department. I would also say that coming back to Minnesota, it made it easier because both of our parents were alive and lived here. We had family and connections. We lived close to our daycare. We lived close to work. So we kept our world a little closer than we might have otherwise. I know friends who live in other parts of the country, and it's tough when you don't have your family or a friend network around that can be supportive in the same way.
I think, you know, that's a point well made, because I talk a lot with clients about who's going to be your tribe, whether people are transplanting here, whether people are relocating elsewhere.
That's right.
You know, because it's complicated, and families need a community, to your point.
It is. And I think, you know, finding good daycare, finding a faith community that you can be part of, if that's your thing, that can really help a lot in terms of building community. You know, tapping community organizations. I know people who became part of groups when their kids were little. They're still friends with those same folks, and the children are all grown. So building your own tribe intentionally, your own family intentionally, whether it was the family that you biologically have come from or not, is really, really important.
You know, we can't reinforce enough the importance of relationship and reputation, managing your reputation and your, I'm often hesitant to use the word brand, but that people knew you. They knew what what you did, but also what you could do moving forward.
That's right. That's right. I think you've got, I didn't really even think about myself that way about having a brand, but reputation matters. And I think
Right.
a key thing to think about is if you don't ever take risks or try things, you may fail, but you'll also never have a shot at something great. And so I would also emphasize the importance of being willing to take risks. People who are experienced in leadership roles understand that.
I love that. Yeah.
And don't pay attention to the noise out there that says, oh,
Right.
she or he didn't try
Right.
that and they didn't make it. Actually, those are great learning opportunities, I think. But yeah, network is key, and just trying to stay positive and confident
Yeah.
and realistic is really important.